think another example where I put the interests of the entire community ahead of a small special interest group was the dog park. I support the concept of a dog park. I'm not a dog owner, but I understand if there's some dog owners who would like a park, if we could find the right spot, I totally support the concept. But when it was initially proposed, there was going to be no town revenue involved in it. Because we found that there's asbestos in the building on the site, there's going to be a cost to take the asbestos down, and I didn't feel that the taxpayers should pay for any of that. Again, I support the dog park, those who want it, but as long as we have a site, fine, I have no problem with that. And I'm trying to work with the state to facilitate it and get it moving, but I don't think Yorktown taxpayers should pay for it. It should be the dog park group. And that's what they originally said, I think in 2008, there would be no cost to the town. And there's been slippage on that.
So in terms of both of your examples, I think it could be said that you approach these issues from a multi-dimensional point of view, meaning they're not one-dimensional issues where there's only one ramification, where there's a single ramification of voting yes or no, or that you look at it from different sides. Right.
Oh, if life would be simple, my job would be so simple if every issue was a single dimension. But most issues I deal with, there are ramifications, and I have to look at both sides. If I fix this, something else is going to be a problem. If I give this service, well, something else is going to get hurt. And then I have to start weighing the pros and cons and see the bottom line is what will work best for the most people in Yorktown.
Right.
And that's the concern that I have. And it's not always easy. And
right.
Sometimes you find some who support it, but some who just are not happy. But that's, as I keep telling people, that's why I get the big bucks, to make some of those difficult decisions. I would dearly love to be able to say yes to everybody, but I don't think people would like to see the tax rate if I said yes to everybody. There's just no way I can do that.
Right. And I think it's fair to say that you are perceived, whether by people who are ardent supporters or by people, who may be, let's say, critics, as a detail-oriented administrator and legislator. And at the same time, there are some people, who for their own reasons are, want to be critical, who will say they feel you keep your own counsel maybe to the exclusion of listening to others. So my question there is, do you have what you would consider like an inner circle of advisors or confidants that you bounce things off of?
First and foremost, I listen to my department heads. They are the experts. Whether it's an engineering issue, talk to Sharon Robinson, a police issue, talk to Dan McMahon, a very able chief. Each department, I ask them questions, I take their counsel, and then I listen to others and weigh it. You talk about my attention to detail. Do you know when I came into office, I learned that we had uncollected taxes dating back to the 1970s. All right?
40 years ago. Well, almost 40 years ago.
I mean, it was a mess. We were still, remember, most people don't know this, but the town has to lay out the money for county and school taxes, and only when those taxes are eventually paid do we get reimbursed. We were still paying taxes on the 2 trunk parcels that are now state-owned and have been state-owned for years. They were still on our tax rolls, and we were paying county and state taxes. There was no reason for that, okay? And I went through it. Well, I worked with people in the tax office and the assessor's office and with the town attorney, okay? But the direction came from my office, let's get this cleaned up. We were paying county and school taxes on roads that were still tax road. Yes, you look surprised, but that's what I found, okay? And this is what we've been cleaning up, all right? Because it's money, we were bleeding money unnecessarily, because we will never get those taxes back. If a homeowner owes taxes and we go after that person, yes, eventually they pay and they pay up with interest. We wrote off $1 million, okay, in uncollectible taxes. Roads are not going to pay us taxes. The state was not going to pay us taxes for the Trump, the parcels that Trump donated. So
Right,
I
sure.
stopped the bleeding.
Now, you mentioned Police Chief Dan McMahon, and I mean, it is a matter of record recently that you've locked horns with the Police Benevolent Association over overtime pay. I mean, and now what about with Chief McMahon? I mean, are you on speaking terms with him? Because there's been rumors about that too. Yeah.
Of course we speak, okay?
Yeah.
I was just in touch with him. I had an issue about a street that we need some kind of traffic control. It's a problem with drivers, families teaching their kids how to drive when they use the street. It's becoming a problem for the residents. So I emailed him and I said, what is your recommendation on how we can deal with this? We're working with the chief on ATV law because we've had a lot of damage done to some of our town parks with ATVs. We've reached out to him on his input on that. So yes, I work with him, and that gets back to who counsel. I look for counsel first and foremost to my department heads. But if a department head does something that I think is wrong, doesn't follow town policy, or creates problems, yes, it's my job as supervisor to speak to that department head and say, what you did was not proper. You violated town policy.
Well,
otherwise, I wouldn't be doing my job.
Right. Well, and we also, do have the not quite usual situation of a department head suing you and the town in the person of Highway Superintendent Eric DiBartolo. I mean, what's the situation there? I mean, a lot of people in town are talking about how could something like that happen, where a department head could sue the town and why, and I mean, it's been widely reported about the comments you made.
Bruce, you're a reporter, you're a journalist. You know that my answer is only no comment.
Okay,
When it's in litigation, that's all I can say.
And because I'm a journalist, that's why I have to ask the question,
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
And when each reporter called me, they knew they were making their perfunctory call, so I would give them the answer that they knew I was giving. That's the advice from a lawyer. Unfortunately, the plaintiff can say anything they want in the press, and I have to say no comment. So my story cannot be heard in the public. It will be heard eventually in court if that's what it will take.
Now, is this, I do want to follow up by asking, is this something that the town attorney would be involved with?
No, we are represented by outside counsel.
By a personal attorney?
Litigation is typically represented by outside counsel.
Okay, so it's not a town affair or a legal...
Whenever if we have we sued on some of our decisions on the zoning board, okay, outside counsel. Sometimes if it's covered by insurance, there's no cost to the town. It depends on what the nature of the case is. So sometimes in this case, there's no cost to the town. It's being covered by our insurance company in total.
Okay, and then what about, and does that mean that you personally have a separate counsel, or?
Right now, it's the same counsel who's representing the town and me.
Okay, all right.
But there's no cost to the taxpayers.
Right. Going forward as you campaign, what are going to be the this is probably a bad pun, the primary issues, whether it's in the primary or in the election itself, that you're going to focus on in talking to constituents?
Promises made, promises kept. When I campaigned 2 years ago, I said, I'm not a politician. I'm not a politician, and everybody knows that I'm not a typical politician. I said, I have no patience for empty slogans. I'm a person of action. I was a businesswoman for over 20 years.
And what business was it in again?
Well, for about 10 years, I was a publisher, and then I had my own communications consulting business. So if you're working for yourself, you get things done, and you know how to get things done, and that's what I promised. And that's what I have done, and I will tell people exactly what I have done. I said I would control taxes. In 2010, we reduced expenditures $800,000. And we raised $800,000 in additional town-generated revenue, not the sales tax. Sales tax we had no control over. Between the sale of the town-owned properties that we didn't need, bringing in additional revenue in the water department. Okay, we brought in over $800,000. So I saved $800,000 by cutting expenditures, so that's a total of $1.6 million. Okay, I've done things for small businesses. I've streamlined the project review process. Again, I promised I would do that, and I did that. Environmental protection. We passed a tree law that has been lingering for over 2 years. I got it done. We got the comprehensive plan done. We're getting a senior, not a whole new senior center, but we're getting the critical part, the nutrition center revamped. It's out to bid. I've got my fingers and toes crossed that the bids come in on budget, okay? And we'll know that in about 2 weeks. We lost a $250,000 grant from the state because nothing was done. That was the previous administration. Not only have I saved $125,000 in CDBG money, I've gotten an additional money for CDBG. Okay?
For the what? For the
For the senior renovation.
senior renovation, right?
And we've gotten that from the county. So we preserved what they had promised us because they kept saying, "When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it?" Well, they saw that we had plans and they gave us additional money.
Right.
So I get things done. I make promises and I get things done. And that's the campaign. That's what I will take to the voters. Promises made, promises kept. If I can't do something, I won't tell a homeowner, I'll take care of your problem. If I see that the problem is such that it's beyond my control, I can't make a promise to them, and I won't.
Or as Howard Cosell, the famous sportscaster, used to say, telling it like it is, right? That's it.
Oh, gosh, that's the way. That's it. I tell it like it is.
Right.
If there's a problem, with sincere regret, okay? It's been very painful if I have to tell a homeowner, I'm sorry, your problem is such that it's beyond the town's ability to fix, or it's beyond the town board's ability. There's some problems, such as drainage problems, road problems, I can't fix. If somebody wants their road paved, I can't do that. That's
Right.
the highway department. He's a separately elected person.
Right.
Okay, there are many problems which I say, sorry, you have to talk to the highway superintendent. I can't deal with that.
Right. And as far as some of the, let's say, more mundane aspects of campaigning, do you plan to use signs? The famous lawn or infamous lawn signs, you might say.
We're going to be revising our sign law, and we're going to actually prohibit temporary political signs on the town right-of-ways. We can't ban anything on private property. Frankly, if it was up to me, I would love to have a gentleman's agreement with my opponent and say we will not do lawn signs. I would like to do that. But I've been told in the past that when Republicans made agreements with Democrats, the Democrats went ahead and got their signs up. So I'm a little leery. But yes,
But isn't the current
Let me
town?
also add, by the way, that the Serafina Mastro, the head of the Republican Town Committee, has sent a letter to Ron Stokes, the head of the Democratic Committee, asking to meet with them as soon as possible to set up a series of debates or forums, okay, between the candidates. It could be just the supervisor candidates, it could be just the town board, it could be a mix, it could be with the judges, with county legislators, whatever mix is appropriate in different forums. Democracy works best when the electorate is informed. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I tried to do that 2 years ago, and my opponent shied away, and he only met me once. He rejected several opportunities that I presented, okay, in neutral settings. I think I asked you once to moderate something, and he just said no. This time we're asking early before our calendars get booked up.
Right.
So I am hoping that he will not shy away from meeting the public and having a good debate. Okay?
Right.
This is my opinion, this is your opinion. Do we agree? Where do we disagree? What our different styles are and so forth.
And what about, by the same token, a debate with a potential primary opponent?
If I have one, this late in the game, unless you know something that I don't know.
I might. No,
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing official, but I'm anticipating there could be an announcement this week. So.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
I'll rearrange my plans.
Okay.
My plans are in pencil, they're not in pen. Or there's always an eraser on the pencil. So we'll see what happens.
And isn't there on the lawn sign law? Isn't there already something on the books, an ordinance about that prohibits signs on the right of way?
Yeah, and it's just not honored. And
Oh, it's not enforced.
it's enforced. I was on the phone today with our code inspector, and he's been picking up signs constantly. Not just political signs, but the other signs. I won't mention some of the commercial signs. And in fact,
Yes, I've seen them. Actually, I'm glad you're mentioning that because I've seen them too, and I thought to myself, they should not be there. I mean, they're sort of trying for free advertising, in our business, as it's called.
in fact, it's on my my notes for tomorrow's town board meeting. At the beginning, I make some announcements to remind people, okay, whether they're advertising, come to my store, or they're having a tag sale, where you are allowed to put signs up, okay? We have a very permissive law that lets you put signs up, but in certain places and under certain circumstances.
Right.
So I will be making that announcement, tomorrow. It's getting out of hand,
Right.
and it's visual pollution,
Yep.
and we want to control it, but we want to protect free speech. And again, private property, you can put anything you want in there. We're not going to say no.
Right. But you yourself, in your campaign, you will use signs?
Probably, unless I can get an ironclad guarantee from my opponent. If he will not do it,
Then you won't, right?
that's right. And then hold him to it if I suddenly don't order signs and I see his signs up.
Right.
But if he is willing to do it, I would welcome that opportunity.
And along the same lines, I know there's been talk already of, signing a pledge, candidates signing a pledge for to, avoid personal attack campaigning. I mean, is that something you would sign?
Personal, absolutely. I think we've got to make it clear that there's a difference between personal attacks and attacking somebody's record.
Right.
My record is an open book, and any part of it can be criticized. That's perfectly legitimate. Attacking me personally or attacking my family is a different matter.
Right.
And I don't think there was anything certainly in my campaign last year that even raised that kind of issue. But again, your record, that's a public document, and I see no problem with that. If people have questions about that, fair game.
Right. Okay, this is Bruce, the blog for PennySaver Community TV, and we have been talking with incumbent Yorktown Supervisor Susan Siegel about her running for re-election this year for a second term.
That's right.
And that's November 8, 2011, Election Day. And thank you, Supervisor Siegel, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Bruce.